everyone. Welcome to our live chat with Shirlee McCoy, author of Protection Detail, the first book in her love-inspired series. Romantic suspense fans and dog lovers alike will absolutely adore the story of a lawman on a mission, Gavin, his love interest, Cassie, and his loyal dog, Glory. I just wanted to welcome you today, Shirley.
Thanks,
It's so great to have you here.
Thanks.
Yeah. I just also wanted to let our viewers know that we're giving away a swag bag full of Shirley's favorite things, plus a copy of Protection Detail, which I have right here. Very exciting. So stop by BookTrib after the chat and enter to win a bag of her favorite things. So Shirley, before we begin our questions, can you tell us a little bit more about Protection Detail?
Sure. This is actually the first book in a 6-book continuity. I'm the first author, and there are 5 other authors who are writing the series with me. In my story, a young lawyer is murdered, and his congressman father is wounded, and the hero, Gavin, is investigating with his canine partner, Glory. And Cassie, who is the heroine, has several foster children in a foster home, and one of those children may or may not have witnessed the murder. So that's how the two of them connect, and of course, lots of suspense and romance and intrigue ensue.
Excellent. Now, before we went live, we were discussing just sticking to your writing schedule, and I had a quick question. So you have, children at home, and you also homeschool, which I think is incredible. How do you stick to such a busy schedule and also stick to your writing schedule?
I get up very early in the morning, actually. I do most of my writing between 4 and 7 in the morning, and I have a very strict writing goal that I try to meet every day, because if I don't, I get behind, and once I'm behind, I'm never going to catch up. So that's how I do it. I do small goals, and then that leads to the bigger project.
Yeah. Right? That's the only way to do it. Can you tell us more about the Love Inspired series and how you got involved with that?
Sure. Love Inspired is a Christian offshoot of a series romance for Harlequin. It's a faith-based story, but the faith message is very subtle in most of our books. They have love-inspired romance, love-inspired historical, and then love-inspired suspense, which is what I write. So something for everyone, really, with really wholesome values, nice family-friendly books. I can give them to my 12 and 13-year-old daughters, and they love them. So, I give them to a lot of their friends, too.
Yeah. Now, speaking of just starting to read romance at a young age, I read that you read your mother's Gothic romance novels as a kid. So is that how you kind of got intrigued by romance and romantic suspense?
I think it is. I really loved reading Victoria Holt and Mary Stuart. Really Gothic queens, fantastic writers, and with just enough romance for a young girl to enjoy, and not too adult for someone who's 13, 14, 15 years old.
Yeah. What are some books that you're currently reading? Do you have any time to kind of check out what's new out there?
I do. Actually, right now, it's kind of funny. I'm reading my sister Mary Ellen's book. It's a love-inspired suspense book. She wrote it, and it will not be out till May, but I have advanced copies of it, so I'm reading that. And I just finished reading my other sister's book, Undercurrent, which came out in January. And then I'm reading a book by Kristen Higgins, and I'm completely blanking out on the title right now. But I love Kristen Higgins' work.
I always either blank out on the title, or I'm like, I've read this book, and who's the author? I can't.
Yeah,
I
have like 16 books sitting around me, and none of them are the one I'm reading.
Yeah. Yep. To be read piles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Love Inspired series, you said there's 6 books in the series, written by different authors. Are they standalone? Can they act as a standalone, or do they all follow the same story?
They are standalone in the sense that each has its own small mystery, but overall, to find out the overarching mystery, you're going to want to read all 6. Actually, currently, Terry Reid, who is also an author who wrote for the series, has a free online read at eHarlequin that is connected to this series.
Oh, awesome.
So readers can go to eHarlequin and look up free reads or extras, and they can read Dangerous Justice, which is connected to all of our stories. It's kind of fun and free, which is great.
Oh, great. Yes. Everybody check that out. That's awesome. So did you collaborate with any of the other authors?
We do.
Or, kind of talk on and off?
We do. We work as a team really closely together because we're presented with these ideas through Harlequin. So they'll send us a Bible of information with the stories. It's kind of almost a work for hire situation where they give us a story idea and we execute it. So we have to work really closely together. It's a lot of fun. Great ladies to work with too.
Yeah. Sounds great. Now, speaking of just, working with authors, and do you attend any writing conferences? Do you have any favorites out there that you go to?
I go to Romance Writers of America, which I love. I've been to the Christian Fiction Writers conference, and there's a local one here in the Inland Northwest that I've attended a couple times. I don't always go every year because I do have 5 children and fairly busy schedule with them. But I try to make it every year because I love getting together with other authors and aspiring writers to talk to them about how they can achieve their goals.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like a fun time.
It's so much fun.
I would love to be able to do that. Yeah. Chelsea has a question from one of our viewers. She said she really enjoyed the book. She said Cassie is a foster mother, and she says, why did you choose to make her a foster mom in Protection Detail?
I didn't actually choose that. The team that put together the Bible, or the author who put together the Bible, chose that. But that storyline was very close to my heart because my youngest daughter was adopted when she was 7. And she came from a foster home situation in China. I was able to meet her foster mother and really got to see that love, that the bond between the foster parent and the child. So writing Cassie's story was very special to me.
Mm-hmm. Now, Bridget has a question. She has a couple questions actually about actors and who you would want to cast them as in a movie. And I'm trying to think myself right now who I would cast Gavin and Cassie as. Do you have any ideas?
Well, this is so hard for me because I'm not a huge movie buff because I tend to either read or write. So this would be something, I think when I write the stories, I want people to use their own imagination and come up with their own ideas about who they would put into them. Everybody has a vision of who the hero and heroine is, and I want them to be true to that.
Exactly. It's like when you see a movie, you see who they picked as the main hero, or heroine, and it doesn't make sense sometimes.
Yeah, and you can't unsee it.
So, yeah, you're like, it doesn't work for me. So Jessica has a question. She says, what do you think first brings Gavin and Cassie together?
I think that neither of them really want to find love. But both of them are really missing something in their lives. And as they meet each other and they knew each other before the book actually takes place, but not well. And as they get to know each other, they realize that they are stronger together than they are when they're apart. They're not weak when they're apart, but it enhances the things that they're already able to do well when they're with that person. And I think that's the thing that we're all kind of looking for in a relationship. It's someone that makes us our best selves. And I think with Gavin and Cassie, that's really what it is. They become their better selves when they're together.
Now, where did you get the idea for incorporating Wallman and their canine partners? This is a question from Jessica again. Was it something that they came up with for the Love Inspired series?
Yes, for the Love Inspired suspense continuities, which we do every year. The Canine series have been very popular. This is actually not the first one that we've done. It's the first capital Canine one we've done. I absolutely love writing them. It's so much fun to do and so much fun to research.
Yeah.
And if you love dogs, it's
yeah, it's a fun element to add to it that you don't normally see. I think it's interesting. So do you have any say in the design of your book covers? That's a question from Bren.
I do. with Harlequin, we actually have an online art fact sheet that we fill out. So basically, I can give them ideas
Mhm.
for who the hero and heroine look like. I'll send pictures of the scenery. I give them ideas for scenes to put on the front cover. I'd say probably with the continuities, I have a little less say than when it's one of my own series, because of course they're going to have a continuous element through the entire series. So if you look at all the Capital Canine books, you'll see all of them have like the hero and the dog on the cover this time, which I love. I think they're phenomenal.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, they look great. I love the doggy.
Yes, me too.
So Bridget wants to know, what kind of writer are you? A plotter or a seat of your
Oh
pants
man,
writer?
I am so much a seat of the pants writer. Unfortunately, as you get further into your career and you're selling on a proposal, so just maybe a few chapters and a synopsis or outline, you really have to be able to plot the book ahead of time. It's been a real learning process for me. So I've been published for about 10 years and
Hmm.
it takes me as long to write that proposal as it does usually to write the entire book. It's really painful. Yeah.
Wow.
It's surprising I ever sell
Now,
anymore because it
Louise,
takes so long, but yeah.
yeah. Louisa has a great question. She says, "What has been your most memorable moment as an author?"
Um, Honestly, my most
Interesting.
memorable moment as an author was when my oldest sister called me to tell me that she had sold her book. And that to me was the epitome of what it means to be an author, to see somebody else that you care deeply for achieve that dream.
Yeah.
Um, was probably as special as getting my first contract. And my younger sister had sold a book just a few months prior to that, also to Love Inspired. So now we're all in the Love Inspired family. And it just meant so much to me to know that I had my sisters and I kind of all working together with a common goal. It was a lot of fun.
That's crazy. Do you guys do you read drafts of each other's work? Do you kind of converse about that?
We do actually. I do a lot of brainstorming with my sisters because my older sister, Mary Ellen, is very good at ideas. And then my younger sister is very
Yeah.
good at the mechanics and catching small mistakes and things like that. Right now, my writing schedule is so busy that I don't usually send them a complete manuscript, but I do read theirs and they read each other's and we critique
Hmm.
for each other. So we have kind of a
Yeah.
little group. It's not exclusive. Anyone can join.
What
You're
kind
all
of
welcome.
It's not just the three
No.
sisters. So what kind of strength do you think you bring to the table? You said one's good at mechanics. What do you think you have a keen eye for?
Characterization, I would say. That's probably my strong suit in my writing overall. I really need my editors to work with me on getting all of the details matched up because sometimes I get so caught up in the story I forget who has blue eyes or brown eyes or green eyes or some of the backstory, probably because
Yeah.
I'm a seat of the pants writer. But characterization is probably my
Yeah.
strong suit, so I help them with that a lot.
Cool. Bren wants to know, how do you come up with the names for your characters? Do you have a list somewhere? Do they kind of like tell you the names that they want? I find it interesting,
Yes.
just the way that people come up with names.
For the continuity stories, the names are given to us with the book idea. For my own stories, a lot of times they're people that I know or have known, or a twist on someone's name. Um, if people have read a lot of my books, they will find almost every one of my children named in one or the other book, and many of my siblings, my nieces and nephews, and but it really has to fit the character. And if it doesn't fit the character,
Yeah.
I have to change it, which I've done.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna ask you if you ever change it, because I'm sure sometimes it doesn't
Yes.
fit. Um, Kristen wants to know, has anyone you know shown up in the pages of your story, or someone close
I don't
to
know if I should admit
some of
that,
these
but
characters?
yes, yes,
I
I
know,
have.
right?
I think
Yeah. I feel every
I think my parents have recognized several of our relatives, and I'm writing a book right now that
Oh,
my
that's
father is featured in. I'm curious to see if he realizes that it's him. But yeah, I use a lot of people that I meet and acquaintances because people are so fun. They all have different unique
Mhm.
stories.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, Dee has a question about the first thing you ever wrote. She says, "Do you have other stories in a drawer somewhere that never really saw the light of day?"
Yes, I had written two stories before I sold Still Waters, which was my first book. And I actually have a third that I wrote after I sold that didn't sell. And I do have them,
Mhm.
and they're really bad. I don't think I'm going to ever revisit them and try to rewrite them. But yeah, I think every author has books somewhere that they didn't sell.
Yeah, that they sometimes go back and look at,
I
and you're
look
like,
at them
oh,
sometimes and laugh at myself. It's very amusing.
yeah. Now, Clark wants to know, do you ever have a break between writing books? What do you like to do when you kind of have some time off?
Honestly, at this point, I really don't have breaks between writing books. I have one deadline after
Hmm.
another, but I take time to do things with my family because you have to
Right.
prioritize that. That's much more important than any book you can write, are the relationships you build. So, I like to hike. I like to do things. My girls and I like to go vintage shopping and antiquing. And my husband and I went up to Canada one
Oh,
weekend, and I
nice.
left my laptop at home. So, no writing.
Yes. Yeah. Now, speaking of things that you take with you, Dee says, "What's one thing you don't leave home without?" I love that
My
question.
laptop. Almost never.
You're like, I did.
Everyone who knows me only knows me with my laptop. And one time I didn't have it, and someone said, I didn't recognize you. You didn't have your laptop with you. I write everywhere.
Oh, that's so
Everywhere I
funny.
go, I write.
Yeah.
So.
Hmm. Do you ever write longhand, or it's always laptop?
I used to write longhand somewhat, but I can't now because I have a problem with my hands, so I can't use them to write longhand. So
Hmm.
that's okay because my
Yeah,
handwriting was
it's a
sloppy.
lot of work.
What's that?
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to be writing longhand.
Yeah.
That's intense. Now, Kristen wants to know if you could collaborate with another author and write a new novel together. Who would it be, and what would you write about?
Wow.
Quite a question.
Um, that's really tough because I have a lot of authors that I would love to work with. I don't think I could answer that question. I have so many story ideas that would be hard to choose just one. I mean, I would love to work with my
Yeah,
sisters, honestly, on a three-book series about
yeah, that'd be
sisters.
amazing.
So I guess that would be my answer.
Angela Smith just sent through a comment. Nice cover. I love dogs. I love books with dogs in them. That's amazing.
I do
And she
too.
has a picture of her dog. Oh, her little pug.
Aww.
Now, now in protection detail, did they have to kind of research canines and canine behavior? Do you know if there was anything that went into that?
They sent us some information to do some research for ourselves, and I'm sure they did. I'm really not in contact with the person who wrote the Bible. I work through my editors. Also, my
Mhm.
sister does search and rescue and is training her dog for that, so I was able to get some information from her. You really want to try to be
Oh,
true to the details of
awesome.
it.
Right. Um, Now, do you have I think you might have mentioned TV. Do you watch any TV shows? Is there anything that kind of is a guilty pleasure right now that
Oh my
you're
goodness.
really liking?
I watch a lot of the History Channel. I'm really boring.
Yeah,
Documentaries and cooking shows and
it's
Antique
cool.
Roadshow.
Yeah, yeah, you like
Oh, I
antiquing.
love
Absolutely.
things.
Well, there's a story. There's a story behind every antique. A million
Absolutely.
stories. Now, Bren wants to know like your timeline of writing, which I don't know if you technically do if you're a seat of the pants writer, but she says what kind of timeline is involved in one of your novels from conception to mailing it off or sending it off to the publisher? Can you kind of tell her like
Okay.
the process there?
Sure. Usually I write the proposal, which is about 3 chapters and a long synopsis of the book, and I send that in. That takes me probably a month or so to do. And then after that, I start working on the book. I can write a love inspired book in about 2 months. And after I finish, I like to have a little time to read it. And then
Hmm.
I read through it and send it to my editor. It usually takes her just a few days to a couple weeks to read it and get back to me. And either I do revisions or not, depending on what the problems are with the manuscript. Um, does that answer the question?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, definitely. Yeah. Now, when you're writing, do you have a playlist? Do you ever listen to music that helps you get the words down on the paper?
Um, Sometimes I tend to get really distracted by music because to me, music is like a good book. So I tend to write with
Yeah.
the TV as background. But I do have certain songs that I like to listen to when I'm writing certain
Yeah.
books, or certain songs that I hear that will remind me of a story. Don't ask me which ones because I'm
Yeah.
blanking out. I've got no idea right now.
Yeah. I'm also a fan of the TV on in the back.
Hmm.
I never, some people say I can't concentrate with that. I always love that. I need like a muted noise or something like that. It works for
Well, I
me.
think if you have a lot of children in your home, like I do, you get used to the noise. And then if there's no noise, you can't write. So that's kind of my deal.
Like, what are they doing?
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, out of all of your books, what is your favorite cover or a couple of your favorite covers? Are there any that really stand out to you?
I really do love the cover of Protection Detail because I love the dog on the front cover of that. I also had a book out,
Yeah.
I can't remember when it came out, but it was called Fugitive, and it was a blue cover with a cabin and a snow scene with footprints in the snow, and I really loved that.
Oh, I
I've
remember
had
that. Yeah.
Harlequin does really nice covers. I don't have any that I don't like, so I've been very fortunate.
Yeah. So Billy wants to know what's next on the writing agenda. What are you working on in the next couple months?
Right now, I'm working on my fourth book in the Mission Rescue series, which is a series I'm doing on my own. That one involves a hostage rescue
Mhm.
team. It's also for love inspired suspense. And I'm writing a
Cool.
small, sweet small town story for another publishing house. So I'm kind of doing both
Mhm.
projects at the same time. Also, I just finished a novella that's connected
No.
to this continuity. That's a canine
Oh,
novella.
really?
Yeah, it's coming out in November. And
Oh,
I wrote
neat.
it with Lenora Worth. We both did a small story, and they're going to be together in the same great two-in-one deal for books. So a lot of fun in November.
Cool. You guys heard it
Yeah.
first. That's exciting. Now, for in terms of aspiring authors, do you have any advice for someone who, wants to get published and wants to start really working on books as a regular thing?
My first piece of advice would be to write, because I know a lot of people who want to
Hmm.
write and have great story ideas, but when it comes to the hard work of actually sitting down and doing it, they can't make themselves put the story on paper. So be disciplined and
Hmm.
have small goals. Then my second piece of advice would
Hmm.
be to not give up because you never know what's around the corner. Oh, I see the pug. Angela, I see your pug.
So cute.
Yeah.
um, what do you think is the biggest challenge that a new writer will face? Do you think it's just sitting down and getting down to the nitty gritty, or?
I think that for I can only speak to for myself. I mean, for me, the hardest part is believing I can finish the story once I start. And we all get to that point, I think. I've talked to a lot of authors in the middle where you just feel like the book
Right.
has lost its way and you're sure you can't finish it. You have to
Mhm.
just push through. And once you get
Right.
past the idea that you're not going to be successful and you just worry about because a lot of people go into it thinking I don't know if I can do this. You just kind of have to have a positive attitude and
Right.
write from your heart, and then write the story the best way you can and get advice from people who can mentor you too. But yeah, the biggest challenge for me is actually sitting down and being disciplined about it.
Yeah. That's great advice. Louisa wants to know some current authors who inspire you, and who do you turn to for, as a mentor?
I have a very dear friend who writes for Love Inspired Romance, Brenda Minton. Um, she writes just the romance line, but she and I have been friends for many years. And when I'm struggling in writing, she's the one I talk to. Looking at authors who
Mhm.
inspire me, Debbie Maycomber, she's been doing this for a long time, writes fantastic,
Yeah.
sweet books. Of course, don't we all want to be someone like Nora Roberts? And I love Kristen Higgins' books. I read hers because they're funny and light and easy. And who wouldn't want to have Stephen King's imagination? I think there are as many authors who can inspire me as there are, authors that I read. So
Have you met any of the authors that you are inspired by at conferences? What was that like?
I I keep losing my ear thing. Sorry.
Yeah. Good to keep.
I met BJ Daniels at a writing conference and
Ah.
absolutely love her and her books. And she was so warm
Mm-hmm.
and down to earth. And I thought, this is the kind of person that I want to be when I meet people and talk about writing. And I also
Exactly.
met Linda Howard, which was
Yeah.
phenomenal. So yeah, I've met several, and I always feel like a giddy kid every time I meet someone.
Yeah. That's amazing. Now, Chelsea's curious about the title protection detail. Was that the title that came with the book? Did you decide on something different?
We
How did they
decided
kind
that
of
as a
come up with that?
the editorial team and I worked on titles together. So that was kind of them meeting and discussing what would work best and getting ideas from me, and that was what we came up with, which is very apt for the book.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, I'm also curious to know, have you ever tried your hand at any other genres? You definitely go for the romantic suspense. Did you ever start off just writing romance and you decided it needed to be more exciting? What was kind of
Actually,
your background?
recently I've been also writing for the sweet small town romance. I write sweet romance genre for another publishing house. So they're larger books, and it's funny, I can't leave the suspense behind. There's always just a little hint of something going on, usually very light. And my very first book with Harlequin
Yeah.
was not as suspenseful as my newer ones. So yeah, I love
Mhm.
small town romance. So that's my second love.
Awesome. Yeah. Um, Clark wants to know, how do you come up with fresh ideas? Do you draw a lot of things from life experiences and, family and other people around you? Is it kind of a meshing of, film and books? Where do you kind of draw inspiration?
I get inspiration from the world. I look at old houses or old vehicles or people I see, and I always have a story in my head that goes with what I'm seeing. I don't, it's just the way I've always been. And so everything around me, I find some kind of story. It's probably not the real story, but hey,
Hmm.
it's fun to make it up.
Right. This is an interesting question from Billy. It's it's uh it's interesting. If your book was made into a film, who would you want to write the screenplay? I don't even know many screenplay writers.
I really
But that's an
cannot
interesting
answer that
question.
question. That is a good question, but I've never even thought about it. So sorry.
Yeah, I know. If you ever think of an answer, tweet it
I
out and
will.
we'll retweet it. You never know. Now, in terms of just writing the whole canine bit, which I find so endearing and lovely, um, do you ever? I'm wondering if when you're speaking with the other authors of this series, did the dogs take on like any human kind of characteristic in the book?
Oh,
Do they have their own individual
they do,
personalities, just like
absolutely.
they do
Yeah.
all pet lovers know? Yeah. So, who were like the different dog characters that you could kind of talk about without giving away too much?
Well, Glory is my dog, and she's a German Shepherd and very
I love
protective.
that name.
Love her. Axel, I
She has
remember.
great hair.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
Um,
With her tongue out.
yeah, there's I'm trying to remember all of them. Honestly, it's been a while since I wrote this book. They're usually in production for about
Yeah.
7 months. So I know there's a Doberman, and
Mm.
I just can't remember. There might be an Australian Shepherd, but they each have to have their own personalities because they are characters in themselves. So, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. They should add in a ferocious pug
Yeah,
for our friend
yeah, for
here
Amanda, right? I mean, for
to join the team.
what was her name? Angela.
Yeah. Yeah, Angela. So cute. Well, I just wanted to thank you so much for joining us. We've come to the end of our questions, and I wanted to let everybody know that we are giving away a bag of Shirley's favorite things. So you can stop by BookTrib after the chat and enter to win. She has some fun stuff in there. I saw her list. I won't tell what's on there, but yeah. And you'll also win a copy of Protection Detail. So thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you,
It was great to
Amanda.
have
Thank you,
you.
everyone. I had so much fun. Thanks.
Yeah. Take care. Bye,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.